I don't know how to start this video, but hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I finally started making this video because the whole previous hours I was setting up these lights. I put this thing that holds my telephone, and actually it's a thing for a microphone. I'll just show you how all this place looks. And finally, I like the lights, I like the background. So this is Domovoy, Russian flag, and that black square is a part of our oven, like the heater of the house, and I will show you in my next video about my house. This is my room and it's quite dark, but I still like this light. I like how it look. I hope it's not only me who likes this. And there were so many questions, so I decided to divide this Q&A video into two different videos. So this is part number one. And the first question I'm going to answer are the questions that nobody actually asked for, but I know that these are the most common things that people want to know. So my name is Natasha. I'm 21 years old. I live in Khabarovsk city, but currently I'm in Spassk, and my major is English and Chinese, even though I don't speak Chinese at all, and I'm graduating this year. Let's start. So the first question is, without googling, what are your first thoughts and impressions of Portugal? Do you know any facts about the country? Would you like to visit it? What I can say about Portugal? I honestly always associated with its neighboring country, Spain. These countries are close, so probably the culture of Portugal is close to the Spanish culture, probably the language is almost the same. I know that it's not true, and a big source of knowledge for me about European countries was the contest of Eurovision, and I was watching it every year. I was following the singers, and I remember that in 2014 Eurovision was taking place in Portugal. Every country every year had to make their unique design of the contest. So that year in Portugal was designed in the sea style. Even on the logo of that year there was a seashell. Because it's a country located on the seashore, they probably have a lot of history connected with the navigation, sailing, the ocean in general. Maybe economy of the country is based on the sea. And also, if I'm not mistaken, the great travelers like Vasco da Gama, Columbus. Wait, was he from Italy or was he from Portugal? I don't know, but my assumption is that Columbus and Vasco da Gama were from Portugal. I should check it out later.
2 seconds later.
I googled it and it turned out that Columbus is from Italy, but Vasco da Gama, who was the first European to reach India by sea, was from Portugal. Yay! Another thing about Portugal is that I once watched a video from the channel called Land Focus that actually sometimes Portuguese sounds like Russian. It's because somewhere we have the same sounds. For example, the word for music in Russian it's muzika, and in Portuguese it sounds very similar.
Música.
Another thing that I personally associate with Portugal is a song on the Eurovision in the 2019, and the song is called Silly Moves. I just like the sound, the melody. This is one of my favorite songs. Have you thought of visiting Brazil? I'm curious to know what Russians think of Brazil. Let's do the same thing I did with Portugal. I will name just 3 things that come to my mind. And this is football, favelas, warm people, and carnivals. Why I said warm people? Because I feel that people in Brazil are very passionate and welcoming, and I met some guys from Brazil when I was studying in America, and I felt that they communicate more like Russian guys rather than like American guys. And I noticed that content about Russia is very popular with people from Brazil. I often get comments from people from Brazil. My favorite band, I Speak, gave concerts in Brazil, and they said that based on the communication with their fans, they felt that people in Brazil were like Russians. Nastya literally said this. It's like Russia, but it's just warmer. I'm not sure if I would like to travel there in the near future, because I think if I decide to go to the South America, I should plan my trip that way so that I visit some other countries too. I mean, all the countries of that continent. Another thing that fascinated me so much about Brazil is that there are some diasporas of Russian old believers. These are people who are Orthodox Christians, but because of some religious things that were different from the traditional Russian Orthodox Church, they were exiled and they decided to escape from Russia to the United States, to the South America, and there are a lot of them in Brazil, even in Bolivia. And I watched a documentary on the Russian YouTube channel called Redakция. It's very interesting how these Russian people, they live in Brazil, they grow vegetables on the Brazilian soil, they speak Portuguese, but they still speak Russian too, and their Russian is actually not that different from ours, even though they moved there 100 years ago. And yeah, if you want to watch it, you can watch that video from Redakция. They have English subtitles too. What's your opinion on Germany? I mentioned Germany in my videos many times before because I would like to move there maybe one day. I like the German language, but in general, the majority of Russian people, we have this stereotype that German people are very punctual, precise, pedantic, and that they are very hardworking. Germany is a country with a good economy and high standard of living. We in Russia often remember that Great Patriotic War that was a part of this event. I'll not pronounce it because I know that YouTube demonetizes videos. That one American guy once asked me, "Oh, you probably in Russia are still offended with Germany for that war," but I said no, like why would we? Because this was 75 years ago. Many our political scientists that host propaganda TV programs, they try to create this external enemy, and these enemies are all the Western countries and the United States, but it's not that we are hostile to Germans somehow. I mean, actually, Russians would like to move to Germany. How did you get to visit California and Hawaii while in the US in exchange student? It was just amazing. 1 year ago, if you guys don't know, have I mentioned I studied abroad? Yeah, I studied in the United States for 1 year ago, and during my winter and spring break, I traveled a lot. I even visited California and Hawaii, and I remember that I had this pulsating feeling of happiness and euphoria within myself all the time, and it was actually the first time when I traveled in my life so much, so it was an amazing time. Your region in Russia is close to China. Is it common for people from your region to visit China? Do kids try to sneak across the border? Yeah, we are really close to China. We can go there just by bus. We usually go there to buy some clothes because it's very cheap, or just to celebrate some holiday, to eat tasty Chinese food. And as for the kids trying to sneak through the border, I think it's impossible. But one girl from the village called Pogranichny is located in the very border with China. She told me that she and her friends tried to do this, but they were stopped by the customers workers. So, and I don't know why, but we cannot go to China just by car. We always have to go there as a part of a touristic group, and we don't need visa to go to China. And the funniest thing is that we even can go there almost for free or for a very cheap price if we go as a helper. In Russian it's called pomagay or челнок. It's when you have to sneak across the border some bags that don't belong to you. They belong to the merchant who bought them in China and wants to resell them in Russia. The merchant doesn't want to pay the tax for buying these things, so you just pretend that you bought them for yourself. And if the customer worker stops you and starts to check your bags and ask you like, who is this for, who is this for, you have to say, oh, this is from my auntie, this is from my big family. It's actually illegal, but everybody knows about it, even the customers, workers. But I personally have never been to the historic part of China, you know, to the Beijing, to big cities, because the only thing I traveled to was that Heilongjiang province and the city called Suifenhe, and it's a trading city. I only saw merchants in Suifenhe, and sometimes they were really rude. When we Russian tourists don't buy something, they even said some Russian swear words that they learned. Probably they were so angry and desperate, so that wanted to offend us somehow. So yeah, I live in the far east of Russia, in a very remote district to the east from our capital, Moscow. And the next question is about it too. Is there any discrimination from European Russia people to Far East Russia people? Once Igor Akinfeev, a Russian goalkeeper, said that a club from Vladivostok should play for Japan League and not for Russian Premier League, because the traveling from Moscow to Vladivostok is so weird. Yeah, traveling from Vladivostok to Moscow is really tiresome, 8 hours by plane. But I think that football player was just mocking on the Vladivostok team. I think it's not discrimination, but rather ignorance. Because look, in Moscow there are 10 million people. It's like a separate country. But in the whole Far East there are 6 million people. And Far East is like 100 times more than Moscow. So we are the third part of Russia, but we're a tiny piece of the Russian population. And people in Moscow, they don't often hear from us. They take our taxes, they take our money, and they give a really little amount back, and that's why they kind of don't care about us. There's another kind of discrimination. It's a racial one. It's not because of the geography, but because of your nationality. Asian people, people from the Middle Asia, and people from the South Russian district of the Caucasus Mountains, they often meet this when they want to rent a flat. The landlord puts their advertisement. They write, "We will rent the apartment only to the Slavic-looking people," so only to these white Russians. They have a reason to do this because there are a lot of illegal or legal immigrants who come to Russia from the Middle Asian countries, and they live in very low conditions. They're usually 20 people in one flat, and they do the hard labor, and they have very low wage, and it's like legal slavery. And that's why the landlords are afraid of their flats. But this goes even further, and they become so afraid of people of different nationalities so that they don't want to rent it to any person who looks like not Russian. Yeah, so this is bad. I hope this will change. But speaking about this regional discrimination, there was a thing in the Soviet Union. From the 1950s to the 1990s, there was such a thing as limita or limitchiki. These are people from different Russian regions who were allowed to go to Moscow or to bigger cities to work for a very low wage in some factories, and they lived in dormitories, and they are called limita because they have like limited registration in the city. But after they worked several years, they could get the Moscow registration, and this limita, they were kind of looked down. But this all ended in the 1990s, and now actually there's a huge amount of people who come to Moscow from all the regions of Russia, from Vladivostok, from Yakutsk, and actually they find better life there because Moscow is like 5-10 years ahead of the rest of Russia. In today's Moscow, there are not many people who are originally from there, so it's becoming more and more common to come to Moscow. Maybe I will move there too. This is the end of my first Q&A video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I will post the second part in probably 2 weeks because my next video is going to be my house, this house. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!